Hey guys, this is Mr. O with Pura Vida Survival. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to make a survival water filter using charcoal. Charcoal is amazing stuff. The main component of charcoal is carbon, which I'm not a very scientific person, but carbon has the ability to absorb impurities. It can absorb bacteria, it can absorb harmful chemicals, things that can make you really sick. That's why if you go to the doctor because you have food poisoning, chances are they're going to give you charcoal tablets to soak up the bacteria. So charcoal is a very realistic thing that you might be able to find in the wilderness in a survival emergency. You can find a tree that's been struck by lightning. Surprisingly, I've seen several trees that have been struck by lightning on my adventures. Trees that have been damaged by wildfires, or charcoal from your campfire. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at the components needed to make the charcoal filter. So what you're gonna need is a plastic bottle of any size really, but today I'm gonna use a large 2.5 liter bottle. And then you're going to need some type of cloth material. The finer the better. I'll be using medical gauze along with a coffee filter. So a lot of people ask me, especially my students who I teach, Mr. O, why would you have a coffee filter with you? Well, the first lesson that I teach my students is, if you're ever going on a hike, bring some supplies with you. 99% of people that get lost in the wilderness would have had the opportunity to bring some supplies with them. So going back to the components needed, I'm going to use a coffee filter, medical gauze. Let me go ahead and open this now. Charcoal, with where if you were in the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, you probably learned to only use charcoal to make this filter if you took a survival class. Then I'm gonna have little pebbles and then large pebbles. So this is gonna be the order in terms of layers. The finer materials first, then the charcoal, which I'm going to crush up with a mallet, then the large rocks, and then the fine pebbles. ¿Lo pausaste? Okay, so I'm just getting used to making videos, guys. I'm not very tech savvy. I don't know how to video edit or anything like that. Hopefully I'm gonna learn, but I'm really just not that tech savvy. My son, who's 16, is gonna help me out a lot with video editing, so hopefully in the future I'll have some much better quality videos. So one of the steps I want to do is I want to crush up this charcoal to a fine powder. So I'm going to put it into this bag. ¿Tú estás seguro que estás grabando? Okay. But I don't want it to get everywhere. So I'm going to put it in this bag, take out all the air, use my mallet, and start banging it. Okay, so as you can see here, already the bag popped and left some charcoal powder. This is going to be very good as the first layer. So let me get a plate to be able to transfer that very good charcoal powder into the water filter. So now let's open up the bag of the charcoal that I crushed, and I kind of want to set apart the bricks that are still kind of big. Put those kind of to the side. And I really want to focus on the finest charcoal powder. The finer the charcoal powder is, the more porous the charcoal becomes. So think of charcoal as a sponge. And when charcoal starts to absorb impurities, it will start filling up the holes inside the charcoal, the pores, like a sponge. Once all the holes are filled up, then it won't absorb any more impurities, and you need to change the filter, like if you have a filter in your house, in your refrigerator. So one of the very few things actually, that charcoal filters, cannot filter out are electrolytes, mainly sodium. So you cannot use a charcoal water filter to filter out salt water. For that, I'm gonna make another video on solar distillation. So now you get the bottle and you cut it in half. I want to be as organized and neat as possible. I'm going to use about right there. All right. Now, a lot of people, they take the cap off. I don't like to take the cap off. The reason is I like the water to slowly drip out. If you allow the water to slowly drip out, then it allows for the charcoal to absorb the impurities better. The rocks and the pebbles, they don't absorb impurities, but they kind of magnetically pull them towards them. So they don't really mitigate risk as well as the charcoal does. So one of the steps I need to do is poke a hole in the cap. And for that I need to be very careful because I have really cut myself severely. So I'm going to poke a hole big enough where I can fit about a pencil through. Okay. So let me do that. I'm trying not to get cut because my brother-in-law taught me how to sharpen knives with a whetstone the other day, and I got this knife razor sharp. Okay, there we go. That's the cap. Alright, so here, this part will be the filter itself, and this will be the collector, or the reservoir, where you get the dirty water. So, first, I'm going to fold the filter into a layer of 4, and I'm gonna make it into like a cone shape, like this. And I'm going to stuff that down in there. Then I'm gonna get some medical gauze, and I'm gonna cut squares about 6 inches long. So these are 4 inches wide. So I'm gonna do about 6 squares that are 6 inches long. If this is not 6 inches, I'm sorry, I'm not really good at eyeballing measurements. Okay. So, again, you want to form a cup shape. So what I like to do is make a circle like that with one hand, and then just poke, whoop, with my finger, and stuff it down in there. All right. Next, I want to put the charcoal, of course. I should have put it on a piece of paper so that I could direct it a lot better. All right. Let me get that nice and even. Now I want to put the little rocks, and then the medium and big rocks. And this is what the filter should look like. Now, this is just going to be a demonstration. Normally, if you're in a survival situation, you want to make a way thicker layer of charcoal, probably like up to 5 inches thick. But this should be good. So I'm gonna start to pour in the dirty water. Now, what a lot of YouTubers and other content creators do is they let the dirt and mud settle at the bottom, and they pour basically clear water through the filter, thus it comes out clear. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be very realistic because, you know, if you're trying to procure water in a survival situation, you want to dig a hole about a foot or two away from a lake, a river, a stream, or a pond, or whatever freshwater source, and get the groundwater next to the water source, not so much directly from the water source. And it's very realistic that it could be this muddy. So I'm gonna shake it up, okay? I don't see any reason why in the wilderness survival emergency you couldn't put it in a container and let a lot of the dirt settle, but I just for this demonstration want the water to be as dirty as possible. So I'm going to slowly pour the nasty dirty water. And we're gonna see how much cleaner it comes out. Okay, So a mistake that I already can tell that I made is that I made the hole in the cap way too big. I don't like the way that it's pouring out. But it is capturing germs. It is capturing really a lot of harmful stuff. And compared to before, it is much clearer. Zoom in, baby. It is much clearer than this stuff. Now, what you can do is just keep on filtering it, and it'll eventually come out as clear as this. Okay, now you have to remember modern purification basically started around the Industrial Revolution. This is how people back in the pioneer and the Western days, like the Civil War era, I guess, used to drink water that dirty. All right? So there's nothing wrong with it. Now, that's the demonstration for the water filter. I'm going to stop right there. But the last thing I want to emphasize is that when you're done filtering the water, you need to boil it, because there is a slight chance that microscopic viruses and other impurities can flow through the filter. So think of filtering as just getting out like little bits of dirt, kind of helping it taste better. Yes, getting some germs, etc. And then boiling as 100%. It destroys 99.9% of anything that can make you sick. Remember, only fresh water. All right? But look again how clear it is compared to this. This is actually a very good filter. If you do this at home, just experiment with layers of charcoal, different types of pebbles, and a slower drip, and you should get an excellent filter. I feel very comfortable with this if I was in a survival situation. But thank you guys for watching. This is my first YouTube video with Pura Vida Survival, live from Costa Rica, where I'm in the Central Valley of Santiago de Puriscal. I'm going to be uploading as many videos on survival tips, both urban and wilderness, as I can. Thank you guys, and Pura Vida.